The next tool I'm going to teach you guys is called the Duplicate Polygon tool. And what I'm going to do is simply go to Face. I'm going to select all of these faces here. Alright, so it might give me a little bit of an issue. So I'll just highlight all of these faces here. And I know that I've selected some on the back side, so I'm going to deselect these. And the way you deselect without taking all day is simply to hold Control and highlight all the faces that you don't want selected, and it will deselect that for you. It's comes in handy. So I have these faces selected, and what I'm going to do now is go to the Edit Mesh, and then it says Duplicate, right? Very simple. Okay, so now that I have that face in here, I have to move it away from that surface. So I'll go to Object Mode, and it's going to be a little difficult to select, so I can go to Windows, Outliner, and if I click through my outliner, let's see, it's probably in here. So if I go here, see it right there. That's it. Now an easier way to select it without having to go through the outliner is simply to highlight that entire object and then hold Shift and deselect your island. So again, highlight the entire object, hold Shift, deselect the island, and there it is. See? There it is. So what I'm going to do is simply move a few vertices around. I'm going to move a few vertices around. Visually, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to create the delineation, or where the I guess you would call it like the Sahara Desert or the desert transitions into the mountains. So I'll use the grease pencil tool to kind of show you guys, and I'll even change the color so that it is sand color. I'm going to change my vertices, or move my vertices around so that let's go to my top view. So move those vertices around, and it doesn't look like it wants to cooperate. So let's try one more time. Okay. It doesn't want to do what I'm asking it to do, which is fine. Alright. It's been stubborn. Alright, so I'm just going to move groups of vertices around. And then in my top view, the great thing with doing this in the top view is that I can select the manipulator tool and move it any direction. It's not going to move it in the y-axis. Alright, so I'll kind of do this. And later on, what we're going to do is we're going to smooth this geometry, use the soft selection tool to move a lot of the vertices. So I like this shape. I think it's going to work out for me. And there we go. So this is my new shape. Alright, if I press Control 1, that's exactly what this shape looks like. The next thing that we need to do is go to Mesh, Smooth, and you can see that it adds more tessellation to it. It subdivided what we currently had before to twice that amount. And if I go into my perspective, there it is. Alright, so I just want to fix this edge right here, or that vertex, kind of move it underneath my Sahara Desert. Alright, so I'm actually going to create two layers. Alright, one layer for the Sahara Desert and one layer for the island. So I'll go to my channel box editor. And in the channel box editor, I'm going to click on this icon. So it says create a new layer and assign selected object. Layer 2, I'll rename it to island. Save. And now I can hide it, or I can turn it into a reference layer. When it's set as R, it means that I can see it, but I can no longer select it. And it just makes me selecting my Sahara Desert or that sand dunes much easier. Okay, so now I have that. I can press B, select a few of these. I'll press 3 as well. 3 means smooth, smooth selection. If I press 1, you can see that looks very wonky and like very, what's the word? Very linear. But the moment I press 3, it smooths it out. Okay, so I'm gonna select a few more vertices, move them up, trying to. I'm going to avoid selecting the outermost vertices because I want those to stay flat onto the surface. Alright, I want those to stay flat onto the surface. So you can see I'm using my camera in various angles. You probably want to go to your front view and, you know, use your perspective view. So that's the original drawing I used before. You don't necessarily have to use a grease pencil to create that shape, but I like the way it looks. So far, so good. The next step is to obviously texture it, add a few cactus plants in here, which will be, you know, and I don't know why this doesn't want to show up, but it's quite alright. Control 1, alright. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing, alright? And you can see some areas here where this black line, which is the surface underneath, is showing. So I'm going to move it up like that. We're going to make the transition much easier or nicer. So that right there is exactly the process of making your sand dunes. If you want it to look smoother, you want to add more tessellation to this, just go back to mesh smooth and it becomes much smoother. And now you can probably add a little bit more detail into this object. So I'll select a few more faces, press W. I'll press B, which is the soft selection, and add a few more sand dune type shapes. And maybe this section, move it over so it feels as though it's coming right to the edge of this mountain. Like that. And then we'll also use trees to help with the transition. But that's pretty much what we'll be doing for the next few minutes. Alright, so with that being said, let's create our sand dunes.